N.FM. My name is DJ Zouain. This is the Hijack. Thank you for joining me. Welcome. Doing a little bit of adjusting because as it always happens, something goes on where, like, it's not right, something's not good. And then what else is going to happen? Somebody during the show is going to be like, hey, you know what? You play around a lot with your microphone. Well, you know what? That's what I do. That's my thing, all right? Everybody's got a thing. My thing is the microphone. So thank you for being a part of the show. The show, obviously, is brought to you by the N.FM. The N.FM for all of your podcast or mixing needs, really. That's what we do out there on the end. And you could go there. You can subscribe to the shows. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can actually scroll down on the N.FM and go to the Bud Docs logo. Click on the Bud Docs logo. And what'll happen is it'll take you directly to the Bud Docs page and tell them that you want to get your appointment for your medical card. You could do that right on the N.FM. So click on that, go to the N.FM, and you'll be able to set your appointment to get your medical marijuana card, and you'll be able to break one of these open like this. You're gonna be this is just an excuse because I want to smoke. So thank you to Dr. Chanlate and his team. Because I can do that now, and that's great. My name is DJ Zouain. I am the audible chocolate of podcasting. Thank you for entertaining the podcast by letting me entertain you, I guess. I don't know how that works. Let's see here. We have a few things to talk about. We have the booster. I went from booster curious to booster hesitant, and here's why. Well, we'll talk about it. The other thing is Bob Saget dies in Orlando, and that was obviously a tragedy. One of the best names in comedy. Everybody that ever talked about this man said what a sweetheart of a man he was. People who barely knew him, people who knew him well, everybody loved this guy. So we're going to talk about that. But we're also going to talk about, obviously, revisit the fact that Betty White died. So Betty White, Bob Saget, who's the third? We'll talk about that. There were a few people that chimed in about that. Let's see here. Some vandals vandalize the southernmost buoy, the Key West buoy. That was vandalized by a couple of bros. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, sorry, I'm just fixing some things here. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So nope, there's that, but we're going to be talking about that. The vandals that defamed the Key West buoy. If you haven't heard, there were some bros that went out there and they went to the southernmost point and burned or defamed it in some form or fashion. So we're going to talk about that. A new Orlando Sentinel podcast on the Joel Greenberg case. Joel Greenberg, formerly the Seminole County tax collector. So there was a new episode about that. You know what? It hasn't. It didn't. It was very dormant for a while. So I was kind of surprised. Big up Diddy, who tipped me off on it. Let's see here. And finally, we're going to close out the show with graphic artist, pro rollerblader Arlo Eisenberg. Arlo Eisenberg is one of the legends of rollerblading. He is he's an icon of the sport. He's one of the OGs. His credits are numerous in the sports and in graphic design. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the birth of Senate and the birth of all of these brands and just a whole new sport, a whole new action sport, as they called it. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do all of that, that's happening in about 20 minutes. I want to talk about this, the most important thing that's been going on in the U.S. today, and that is the booster shot. So originally, before the end of the during the the last week of the year, we had the Butt Ducks production meeting, or the production day. We had a whole bunch of stuff. Everything was going on all at once, and I was like, man, I really hope I don't get I don't get the Rona on a high holiday like a New Year's Eve, right? Because I wanted to play with my party, with my people at West End, and have a good time. Well, I ended up not getting the Rona, which is great, and I vowed that I was going to get the Omicron, or the booster shot, because I didn't want to get the Omicron. But it turns out that the booster shots that are out at the moment are not as effective as one might want for the Omicron variant. So, for that reason, I personally am going to wait until the next batch, I guess it is. There's a new batch of vaccines that are going to be coming out that are going to be more effective, I guess, against the next generations. But specifically Omicron, which is not actually that bad for the most part for most people. Omicron is not that bad, but I don't want to take the chances because I just don't. So yeah, I don't know. I think that there is I think here's the thing about the booster shot. I think it's become a little less political than the previous shots. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure there are some people that are going to be like, oh, why aren't you getting the booster shot that is not effective? Don't you want to own the conservatives? I guess. I don't know. I don't know why people, politicize science. It's so weird. It's so dumb. It doesn't happen in any other country. I've asked friends of mine in South Korea, hey, man, how's this whole coronavirus thing going on over there? Are you guys politicizing everything? And he laughed. This is an expat, a friend of mine who's an expat. So he used to live here. Now he lives there. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna wait. We'll see what happens. And maybe, just maybe, we could see the other side of this pandemic in the next year. Remember when we used to say that in 2020? People are dumb. But here's somebody that doesn't have to worry about dumb people, and somebody who, from all accounts, didn't let dumb people affect him. Bob Saget died in Orlando, in our hometown, in my backyard, at the I guess was it the Grand Bohemian or the JW Marriott, one of those fancy ass hotels. He dies in Orlando, and you know what? The first thing that I saw from more than one person, at least 3 or 4 people, something about, people not doing drugs. Hey guys, stop doing drugs. It's not good for you. Well, guess what? The coroner's report says that Mr. Saget did not have any drugs in his system. And you know what? You know what's funny? I was rewatching the episode of Hot Ones that Bob Saget did, and something about the drug use came up, and he was like, people think that I'm into drugs way more than I have. Like, he's like, it's at the 80s. I did coke, sure, but he wasn't a big drug guy, So, my first point about Bob Saget dying is, don't jump to conclusions. There are rumors that Kurt Cobain, for instance, was not as addicted to heroin as he has been portrayed in the films and the documentaries and all the crap after his death. So that tells me that somebody that could have died via nefarious purposes, let's call it, or nefarious ways, let's call it, like the old thing about Kurt Cobain maybe being murdered. Like, if you automatically jump to drugs without having any, solid information, then like you are doing a disservice to that person. You're doing a disservice to the person who passed away. And I think that there is something to be said for letting the professionals do what they need to do. That's the problem. And this goes back to the booster thing. This goes back to being politicizing comedy, for politicizing science, rather. It all ties together. This whole idea of, we're going to politicize. We're going to step in where we are not experts because we Googled some shit. Now we are experts. Stop assuming is all I'm saying. Now let's do some assumptions. Betty White and Bob Saget have both passed away. Apparently, these deaths come in 3. And I was there were a number of times that I was told that there were other deaths that have been between the 3 that could make up for the third, or that could be the third death, as they say. So I'm pulling it up right now because I think that there are enough of them that I'm just like, yo, we're losing a lot of people fast, man. This is not cool. I'm not happy about it. So okay, here we go. Sidney Poitier, the actor. So I guess Saget was the third, according to Mouse. And let's see here. The third. Oh, John Madden. AJ says John Madden. Dan says Ronnie Spector. So Ronnie Spector. So the third could have been Bob Saget if you count Sidney Poitier. I'm butchering this man's name, and he just passed away. I'm sorry. Great actor. And so Bob Saget would have been the third. So I guess John Madden part of the previous? Is Ronnie Spector part of the? Man, a lot of people dying. I don't think that this whole thing. I don't think this death comes in 3s things checks out. I'm going to make that assumption right now. I am going to make that assumption. So the other thing that happened in the last few days, since the beginning of the year, this is the first show of the year. The Vandals that defame the southernmost point Buoy. Buoy. That's a weird word. Now I sound like I'm stoned. That's a weird word, Buoy. But it is. It's spelled weirdly. I don't even know if I spelt it right. I'm actually kind of. I think I might have spelt it incorrectly. But anyway, 2 people, and I watched the video. 2 people went to the southernmost point with a Christmas tree. And there was I watched the video as it happened. These 2 dudes, both in white, they were wearing white shorts. I think there might be a fashion police thing there. But yeah, these two decided to take a Christmas tree, put it under the buoy, or as in the base of the buoy, and light the thing on fire. There's a 17-minute video on FloridaKeysNews.com that shows these guys just hanging out. It looks like they are working on I don't know, working on retiling a bathroom. And, dude's just kind of walking around, hanging out for a minute. And then you see a light. There are lights. Dude, it must be so nice to be white, dude. Because if anybody with a year-round tan was doing that right now, I mean, it's Miami, or it's Key West. It could be Spanish, but, light-skinned Spanish people. Either way, there are literal, you could see car lights passing by, and these guys are just moving along, moving around, and then eventually one of them takes a lighter and lights the Christmas tree on fire. And if you've ever lit a Christmas tree on fire, you know that those things just go up in flames, and that is that. I'm actually skipping through the video as we speak, and it doesn't look Yeah. They defame. Oh, wow. The cops finally get there. After the tree has been completely eviscerated by the fire, the cops finally get there. So this is a 17-minute video. The people, the Vandals, we'll call them, were there from where this thing clocks 5 minutes and 53 seconds. That's when they lit the fire. Holy crap, the thing's engulfed in flames by 7 minutes and 10 seconds. And the cops showed up at 13 minutes to a buoy, the side of the buoy where it says southernmost point. That's got a burn to it. So somebody burned it. I'm assuming it's gonna need a new paint job. But other than that, it doesn't seem like anything else was damaged. Yeah, but I mean, like, this place, I've never been to this southernmost point, so I don't know what the surrounding area looks like. This was taken from a webcam that caught the act by Two Oceans Digital. So I guess Two Oceans Digital. There's I guess a fixed camera to the southernmost point, and these guys were caught being dumbasses. So that's great. Wanted to talk about real quick before our guest Arlo Eisenberg shows up. Wanted to talk a little bit about this whole Greenberg case. So for those playing the home game, Greenberg's pled guilty so far to 6 federal crimes, including admitting to to using his public office as a piggy bank and doing things like buying crypto on the county's dime. So this guy, he's a county bro. He's a crypto bro on the county's dime. So the stuff he's pled guilty to could put him in prison for north of 10 years, and the restitution amount that he's going to be paying is almost $2 million. Almost $2 million. There has been the idea that this guy is going to be in any position of influence or power for the next lifetime. I do not see that happening. That is not a thing that I would see. As a gambling man, that ain't happening. I could tell you that, he is currently singing like a canary. His sentencing has been delayed. It's been delayed a few times, but it's been delayed because of the fact that he's been talking. I call it, it's been delayed because of his performance, his singing performance. This guy is singing like a canary. The restitution money that he's doing, because the I think it's like 1.8 million or 1.9. That money is being divvied up with the rest in the restitution. 98,000 goes to the equipment that he bought to mine crypto at the Seminole County office, the Seminole County tax collector's office. The office that caught on fire because apparently whoever set it up, maybe him, I don't know, didn't know what they were doing with the tech, and the power supplies blew up and all kinds of crazy stuff. Let's see here. 354,000 is for tax office credit cards. So he used the tax office credit cards for, his own doing, his own hanging. That's kind of what he does. That's what he's been accused of. The idea that this guy sees any time out of jail, with I don't see him out of jail in the next 10 years, personally. Like, even with all his money, even with all his influence, I mean, they are stripping him of everything currently. $2,700 for sports memorabilia that he purchased with our tax dollars. Maybe not my tax dollars, because I was in Orange County at the time. Now I'm in Seminole. But the whole thing about Joel Greenberg is that he was, not only was he doing that, but he was also, giving consulting contracts to people. He's paying $685,000 for consultants that he paid off in his time there. This is where I believe 30 or 40K that I would have quoted him for my company's services would have gone to. We talked very briefly during, I think, the beginning of his tax collector career, his briefly lived tax collector career. And we sat down and we talked about him putting together a media studio at the tax collector's office. I sent him a quote, but I never heard back from him. So he asked for the quote. He actually asked me out to lunch to be able to talk about it. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means that like he knew that I wasn't going to play ball with him and his weird schemes and sex scandals. Or I don't know. I don't know what stopped him from actually, like, you know, doing this media thing, because he never did it. He never ended up doing it. And radio was always a thing that he was into. I mean, that's how I know him. I used to produce his sports show that he bought airtime for back in the day. And I got to tell you, wasn't a great show. In this particular podcast that the Orlando Sentinel put out, in this particular episode, they talked about his now ex-wife, I guess, because they've divorced, or they're divorcing. And one of the things that I was talking to a buddy who was afraid that the Orlando Sentinel was going to, throw her under the bus and, like, you know, just kind of lump her in with Joel's misdoings. I don't know, whatever. I think personally that he is that she was more of a victim in this whole thing. Maybe victim might be an overstatement, but I certainly don't think that she was privy to all of the stuff that he was doing. And from I think, I mean, obviously she's washing her hands of that entire situation, was just for the best. But the other thing is that he's got other friends that are still in Congress, that are still in office, specifically Matt Gaetz and Matt Gaetz's girlfriend, apparently, according to this pod. I believe it was the podcast that revealed the Matt Gaetz ex to be testifying. And actually, right before I got onto the show, I went to I was looking through YouTube, as one does, and I found out that Mr. Gaetz is in hot water, according to the old David Pakman. According to David Pakman, if you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, very good. Also, more people should know about this, even though a lot of people already do. If you haven't watched the show Breaking Points, is a news show on YouTube that is really, really good. Let's see here. So he's it's really, really good. Sagar and Crystal, they have it's very balanced. Very, very balanced. So definitely recommend it. That's typically where I get my news, is stuff like that. Because honestly, nothing else is, the TV news is antiquated. And these guys, put stuff out that I believe has less of a bend. They have their own individual bends in the way that they present the news. But as far as having any sort of this is our agenda and we're sticking to it, they don't have that. And it's refreshing to see in this day and age. It's refreshing to see the new generation of news reporting and journalists that are independent, which is the only way to go. The only way to go when it comes to this type of news is independent, because as soon as you give the major legacy media any little bit of a thing, any little bit of a you give them an inch and they take a mile type thing, you know. So you don't. If you want to look at news that is balanced, it's another. What's another thing for fair and balanced? A synonym for fair and balanced. Balanced and fair. No, that's just flipping the words. If you want news that is that's worth a damn, in my opinion, check out Breaking Points. David Pakman's really good too. I think that I will be more comfortable once Breaking Points criticizes Joe Rogan a little bit more, even though I don't think that he is due the criticism that he's been given recently. I think that he is due some criticism based on the people that he's brought on and all of that things. I just want to be careful about demonizing anybody, because that is how we've gotten to this point. It's constant demonization for anybody that doesn't deserve it. It's kind of like the word Nazi. You know, people use the word Nazi. They throw the word Nazi around like it's nothing. And I'll tell you, you know, it's really it's disheartening because it loses the meaning. One of the things that I've tried to do myself is not curse as much. In fact, well, if you listen to last week's Irreverent episode, that I did not follow. But I try to not curse as much. I know it doesn't sound like it sometimes, but it's because it loses the potency. It loses the oomph. You know, it's kind of like building tolerance. So cursing and using the word Nazi and using inflammatory words like that, I want to use those inflammatory words for people that deserve it. You know, for people like a David Duke. You know, for people that are deserving of the title. Not necessarily because they say that they are. There are people who are Nazi adjacent and don't know it. And that's a problem, right? So I think that we should be good. I think actually we should have Mr. Eisenberg joining us here shortly. This is going to be good. I'm excited about that. But yeah, it's rollerblading is something that I grew up doing, and my baby brother, who passed away subsequently, started doing that as well. He became very good at the sport, skating until the day he passed away, and it was it's a really good way for me to get back into, because I went back into it earlier last year. In the last quarter of last year, let's call it that. That works. And it's actually felt. I mean, it's changed my life for the better recently, because when you live a sedentary lifestyle like I do, having skates, having something to take you outside of fluorescent lighting or in-house lighting, I guess, anything that you can do to make that happen is beneficial. It helps to have a healthy dose of sun, vitamin D, giggity. But anyway, so we're going to be talking about that. Actually, Arlo just joined us. So my next guest is a pioneer in rollerblading, from being one of the godfathers of the sport, introducing skating setups like anti-rocker, which my preferred riding style lately, founder of some of the most iconic brands, and even had his own skate park in his home state of Texas. He's definitely in my Mount Rushmore of rollerblading. I'd like to welcome Mr. Arlo Eisenberg. Arlo, how are you, man?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you for being here, man. It's an absolute honor. Are you back in Texas? Where are you at these days?
I am back in Texas, and I'm a little distracted right now because I'm trying to figure out the audio. I've never used this platform before.
Okay.
And I think I don't have you on speaker or something. I'm on an iPad.
Can you hear me okay or no?
I can hear you. It's just very faint, and I don't want to miss anything that you're saying.
Sure. No, definitely. Try it. Let me see. I think the only way to do it, the volume is really on your end.
Yeah.
There you go. That sounds like something changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I can make it work, I guess.
All right. I could talk a little louder too here. I'll bring it up. So, dude, thank you for joining me. Now, I wanted to set the table before you started skating, because you started skating in like high school, right?
Yeah, exactly. Probably between my junior and sophomore year. I mean, my junior and senior year in high school.
Okay.
In fact, my origin story is I'd gone with my father and my uncle and my brother. We went to a ski industry trade show in Dallas because, on like spring break, sometimes it's like a family thing. We'd go skiing and stuff. And so my dad and my uncle were way into that. And so they'd go to the trade show and check out whatever the latest gear was, I guess. I don't know. But so we walked around, and Rollerblade had a booth because, I guess one of their early target markets was crossover for skiers.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I'd never seen it or heard of it.
Yep.
And they had, their bedazzled booth. It was bright. Every rollerblading cliche that you can think of from the very early 90s, right?
Green,
Spandex, sparkles, jackets. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so honestly, and I was into skateboarding back then, me and my brother, Andrew. So I kind of was looking at it through those eyes, and it did not look that cool, to be honest, except that, and I've told this story often, but they were playing a promotional video in the booth. And most of the video was more of the same. It was guys dancing and, doing crazy legs, and they had on their sequin jackets. But there was one clip of a guy jumping down like 6 stairs or something in a downtown environment. Mm-hmm. And I thought, something there clicked. I was like, we skate downtown. These are like ice skates, basically, with wheels on that you can use and like skate anywhere, like in an urban environment. And something was really cool and interesting about that to me. And I actually I keep mentioning my brother, but it's because he was older than me. And so everything that I got into at that time was because of him. So he used to play hockey. And so I'd go to the rink with him, and I never joined a hockey league or anything, but I bought skates because we'd go skate at the rink all the time. So I got into skateboarding from him. I got into hockey from him. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw rollerblades, it was like all of a sudden all these things were kind of like come together. It looked like ice skates on dry land, but you could use them where we were used to using our skateboard. So that's how I got into it.
Dude, it's so crazy. I didn't want to. So when Chris Edwards and I talked, I mentioned my baby brother who passed away, who got into skating because of me. Yeah. And like, it's so cool to see that, to see that correlation. I appreciate your origin story way more now.
Cool. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your baby brother. That's tough.
Yeah, man. But he was a way better skater than I was. Holy crap. This kid killed it. So, but I'm back, I bought some Hendersons, went back to the skate park. I blew my knee out 4 times before I finally was like, maybe not right now. Yeah. And then I went back, and I literally didn't know what to buy. Yeah. As far as I just went on Roller Warehouse, and I was like, I found Derek Henderson, and I was like, oh shit, okay, cool.
Yeah, sick.
That dude is a beast.
Yeah, Derek Henderson's rad.
Beast.
Very burly.
Yeah, and so that's what got me into it, back into it. But I originally saw you in the what was it 97 or 98 X Games? What X Games was it? There were.
So I just had to write a bio for myself.
Yeah,
and my daughter pointed out to me that I got it wrong. I thought that I won the X Games in 95, but I guess I won in 96.
Okay, you know what? That makes sense, because I was in military school in the Dominican Republic with a bunch of Dominican kids watching you kill it. And also, I mean, this is obviously, it's a whole hodgepodge. I mean, Rawlinson Rivera went to our skate park one time in the DR.
I was going to say, was Rawlinson revered like a god in the Dominican Republic?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Awesome. I mean, like, I know that he was Puerto Rican, but
he's
I
half Dominican, half Puerto Rican.
That's what it was. Yeah, dude. No, we loved him. So watching you guys is what got us into it. And then you and Brooke Howard Smith and a few others started Senate, which is my favorite OG brand, hands down. How cool was it to start a company with your homies? And tell me about how that started.
Well, so, we covered the origin story in Dallas, discovering rollerblades. Well, fast forward a few years and it consumed my life. And it was, and I thought that I'd gotten pretty good at it. And I graduated high school, went to college in Austin, but all I was doing was skating. I mean, I was flunking every class. So at some point it was kind of like, well, either, do something with it or, focus and commit to something else. Cause so I did. I moved to California. In fact, actually before that, Team Rollerblade came to Dallas. They used to travel around. They'd go to do exhibitions, and there was a 10K race, a skate race in Dallas. Okay. So they came, they set up a ramp, and Team Rollerblade was here, and it was Angie Walton, Jess Darenforth, Pat Parnell, AJ, and Chris Edwards.
Yeah.
And
that's the first class.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is the original Team Rollerblade, basically. Yeah. This is like ground zero.
Yep.
And so after they got done with the show, I skated the half pipe a little bit and got to talking with them, and invited them out to Jeff Phillips Skate Park, which is was a local skate park here. Mm-hmm. And we sessioned out there, and that was the first time I ever saw grinding. Chris Edwards put on some skates with some little wheels and started doing, and I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. Didn't know that was possible. But then I was talking to Angie, and I'm like, what do I do? I love skating. How do I make a living? How do I do what you guys are doing? And she's like, the only way to do it is to be in California, because that's the only place where you can make a living skating, because that's where the shows are. That's where the sponsors are. Yep. And so, it wasn't long after that, but I just sort of, on a lark, I guess, bought a ticket, moved out to California, convinced my parents that I was going to get residency in California and then enroll back in school a year later, which never ended up happening. But in my defense, in the intervening year, I won the first National Inline Skate Series championships, and the X Games was a couple of years after that. So things worked out as far as skating went. But so then once I'm out in California, that's, once you're in California, that's how I got plugged into kind of the scene, the professional scene out there, started getting shows. And I met Brooke Howard Smith, who had, done a very similar thing to me the year before. In fact, anyone who had an interest in rollerblading back then, you kind of had to migrate to California. So a lot of people were doing this. And he did it from New Zealand. He moved out from Auckland, New Zealand to Southern California. But so he'd already made the connections. He was doing shows for Team Rollerblade. He knew the rollerblade guys. And so, I was just out showboating on Venice Beach, jumping barrels. And that's kind of like where skaters would go hang out. And so I started talking to Brooke out there, and he got me hooked up with shows. And then we became fast friends. And eventually that turned into Senate, when we spent a lot of time, obviously, street skating, or what passed for street skating back then. Yeah. And, I'm a small guy. I have small feet, and it was hard to get enough room between the second and third wheels for grinding, for like front sides and stuff. And so we were looking for smaller and harder wheels, and I started putting skateboard wheels in there. I
didn't even know that it was skateboard wheels that you were using then.
What's that?
I didn't even know that you started with skateboard wheels. That's crazy.
So I was working at a pro shop. I was working at like a sporting goods store selling tennis shoes. But rollerblading started to come on the scene, so they brought in rollerblades and started selling and renting rollerblades from the shop. And they also sold skateboard stuff. So I had access to like materials there. So I bought skateboard wheels. I found some that had a narrow enough profile that they would fit in the frame. Yep. And they were little devil wheels. I'll always remember. And so, and they worked great.
I actually remember that graphic. I remember the little devil graphic back in the day.
Yeah, dude, skateboarding was a huge influence on me. I mean, like the art of it, the culture of it, the attitude of it, the style of it, like for sure.
Well, you actually, the thing is that you brought the style. I think that, Chris brought the stunts in my head, the way that I divvied up the rollerblading community, the professional rollerblading community is, Chris Edwards was the stunt guy.
Yeah.
And he was the dude when it came to that. And then you came in and brought like an element of punk rock to it that I was like, you know what? I can identify with this.
Yeah.
And that's really when I went all in with it, was when I saw that connection.
Yeah, very cool. I think that's right on. I was never the skater that Chris was. He was the first best skater there ever was.
Yeah.
And he was I talked about this first generation of skaters that all moved out to California, this mass migration.
Yeah.
But he was everybody, he was the first skater that any of us had to look up to, right?
Yep.
He was doing stuff that was light years ahead of anything that we were doing. And I thought, I never lacked for confidence. I knew I was good, but I always knew that Chris was better than me. I always had a lot of respect for him. But you're right. So what I brought, I think as much as anything else, or more than anything else, was the attitude, right? And kind of a vision for not just the skating and the tricks, but sort of the culture of the thing.
Absolutely. I could not separate rollerblading culture without Arlo Eisenberg.
Right.
Like, it's all, I mean, you should be ridiculously proud of yourself for that, bro.
I appreciate that.
So you and Brooke Howard Smith and the group start Senate after becoming fast friends. It sounds like the plot of a damn movie, dude.
Dude, every time I talk about it, there's no question it sounds just like a movie. And it was, because it was so absurd. I mean, looking back at it, right, the fact that rollerblading was kind of like the thread that wove the entire narrative together. I mean, it just makes it such a wild story, but it also ties it like so distinctive to the time. Like it's such a 90s, story with the rollerblading and the baggy clothes, right? And the boardwalk. It was just, it's definitely a little time capsule. It's really cool.
What's the craziest shit you bought in because I mean you guys I mean I know you guys didn't come out with all of the money that came from Senate, but like you guys had to have like a moment in time where you went from like, all right, am I gonna get a regular job, to hey, maybe this Mercedes is nice, like, or something at that level.
Well, it's funny, so I've never been like a really material guy.
Sure.
Brooke bought an Audi, so that was, I mean, he splurged on that. I bought a Volkswagen Jetta.
Hell
I guess the thing that I splurged on was getting rims. Like that was a big deal back then.
Yep.
I didn't know the first thing about them, but all my friends were like, "Oh, you need to get these. You need to get that. You need to get them like gold plated or whatever."
Yeah.
I didn't get gold plated rims, but actually maybe they were. It wouldn't have been gold, right? But like the color gold.
I mean,
I don't know, something obnoxious.
They would make them like that. I mean, things exist. That's
so it was a green Jetta with like, maybe it was like gold rims. It must have looked very gaudy, honestly, looking back. But it's kind of like
that though. I mean, that was the era of No Limit Soldiers and shit. Like
exactly. And I love No Limit Soldiers.
Yeah.
I love Master P.
That's awesome, dude. Hoax 2 Anarchy. Is it Hoax 2 Anarchy Across America?
Yeah.
Which one? Okay, Hoax 2 Anarchy Across America it's one of the videos that I still watch. I mean, I probably watched it 6 months ago.
Really?
Like straight up. And it's just so, because dude, it was I think maybe you mentioned it, that it was like your real world.
Yeah.
It was like real world, but with rollerblade. It's like, it was a dream come. It's just, like I said, a damn movie. Yeah. But Chris Edwards made a great point when I was talking to him in the last interview. He mentioned that that he he himself, and I guess it's because he was in the first class, didn't seem to get much flack from the other action sports back in those days. I personally remember getting into fights, kids calling me fruit booter. I mean, as late as 97.
Yeah.
So like and I was actually just rewatching Barely Dead, and you detail pretty well the flack that we were getting as rollerbladers by sharing your own experience. But in the same flick, you describe the flip of the skateboarder, from being the punk rock icon, the counterculture, to being the mainstream, or being the, can you do you see the respect? Do you think that rollerblading is getting the respect now that we deserve?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, I do bristle a little bit the sort of phrasing of the respect that we deserve. I don't know if that's exactly always the best way to put it.
Sure.
Because you get the respect that you get, right? You don't get to claim respect.
It's true.
You either get it or you don't.
That's a very good. That is a very good point.
And one quick note I'd like to say about Chris, because I think that's a kind of an interesting angle, because we've talked a lot about after skateboarders had an axe to grind with rollerbladers. But Chris is right. It was the same thing for me coming up in Texas, and the dynamics are a lot different when you're the only rollerblader that anyone ever comes across. Right? They don't know enough about it to know that they don't like it. There's nothing threatening about one guy on rollerblades who they will ever encounter. It's only when rollerbladers start showing up in mass at skate parks and they start wearing baggy clothes and they're always in the way and they're waxing the coping and their tricks look stupid.
It's the scooter.
And then Thrasher can write an article about saying how lame rollerbladers are. I mean, there's got to be sort of like a critical mass before someone can exert the effort to care enough to dislike something. So Chris probably wouldn't have gotten much flack in the early days.
Sure.
Like I did.
Yeah.
But we all got it once rollerblading exploded on the scene.
Everybody, dude. Everybody.
Right. You could not be a rollerblader and not get beef or static from people.
Yeah, I felt like it was the punk rock kids. I felt like it was the stories that I heard from the punk rock kids from the 1960s and 70s, where they were actually getting beat up because they were like part of this subculture. So you know what? That kind of makes me love it even more. So fuck them.
Well, exactly, and it's honestly, it's kind of like, it's forged by fire, right? Or it's like trial by fire. I mean, it's like, when you talk about the respect that you deserve, you don't just show up on the scene and deserve respect. You can't just say, hey, we're here, we're rollerbladers, respect us. Yeah. And you have to be, shit on and spit on, and you have to learn the value of kind of making your own way and doing something without any adulation or accolades. You have to demonstrate that you genuinely love it. And there's nobody rollerblading because they were getting high fives, right? Or getting props. They were only doing it because they loved it. And you had to really love it, because not only were you not getting props, you were also getting shit on. So it built a lot of character sticking with it.
That's so funny. I never even thought about it like that, but you're absolutely right. That is so hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like it sounds like at the end of the film, because I just finished watching it, at the end of the film, you seem to sound more hopeful about the sport. So it sounds to me like that is the case. Like you are more hopeful about the future of the sport and everything like that. Do you like the have you ridden any of the new skates, any of the gods or thems or anybody?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm on a pair of 909s right now. They're actually in my second pair of them skates. Nice. I just got my daughter some Brain Deads for Christmas.
Oh, beautiful.
Or Krampus.
Love it.
Yeah. But so Barely Dead, if I was optimistic in Barely Dead, or by the end of Barely Dead, whatever I was optimistic or hopeful about is here. We are living in the time that that we all, I think, hoped for rollerblading, where you would finally get over the hump, where all the acrimony directed toward rollerbladers and toward rollerblading, people would kind of get over it and just start to recognize it for what it is. And there's kind of no shortcut to that. You kind of have to have people that have been skating for 20 years. You have to have guys like Haffey and Broskow that, that are great, for a long, long time. And, great in a way that's like indisputable and that's recognizable, right? It looks good. It looks dangerous. It looks technical. It looks stylish. And we've got a lot of those guys now.
A lot of style. There's a lot of style in rollerblading right now. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, it's great. Right. It looks like a polished sport. I mean, I've said this a lot too. Like when we were in the first X Games or maybe the first 10 years of the X Games, there was a lot of bad skating. It was a brand new sport. It was not very refined. It didn't have a huge trick vocabulary. It's a lot different than the guys who are skating now. And even the guys that haven't been skating for 20 years, but who have the benefit of looking at guys who've been skating for 20 years, that really accelerates the learning curve so fast. And so, there are so many incredible skaters. And also the entire social landscape is different, dramatically different because of social media.
Absolutely.
So many people are able to be exposed to skating. And it's not even just the fact that they're able to be exposed to it, but it's the fact that the message is not bottlenecked through just a few sources of dissemination. It's not just a few magazines or a few video producers. It's now anybody that's great at skating can put their content out there. They can present it in the way that suits them, and then they can find their audience. So and that way it grows really organically.
I think that it's great that we have that. And I mean, I think this is true for all sports. But we feel it more because it's rollerblading. That back in the day, you had to have your buddy with a bulky ass camera follow you around, and then figure out how to edit this shit or whatever, and then find a VCR to watch it. Now it's like, hey man, get your iPhone out. I'm about to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's one of those things that it's visually appealing. So it's very adaptable to social media, even something like a TikTok, because you have somebody doing something that not a lot of people can do, and something that's interesting. So I think that there is, I think I agree with you that we are here. That the time is now. We're actually one of the things that I'm working on here in Florida is a music festival that we're going to be working on with suicide awareness. I talked to Chris Edwards about Brian Bell. My little brother suffered the same end. So that's, kind of the thing that we were talking about. But I think that there is, for me at least, it's helped my mental health to go back. Yeah. It's therapeutic. And I think that there's not enough talk about that, especially because we have the ability to hit our heads a lot more than a lot of other activities. So I think that when that happens, I'll hit you up, and hopefully there's something that we could all do together. I think that'd be great. So.
Yeah, definitely. I would love that. It's funny because behind me I have some of the art that I've done. This is a lot of stuff from Ghost.
Yeah.
Ghost in a lot of ways was a lot about like suicide. That was kind of like a lot of the inspiration behind it. I mean, the character was a ghost, right? And it had people slitting their wrists and nooses and things like that, and pills and drugs.
Yeah, of course, that makes total sense. Now that you think about it,
yeah, and it's kind of so I'm working on this project now, Drug Receipts, where I'm creating all these. I've got this roster of drug characters, little pills and pill bottles and things like that, and syringes. But we're doing an NFT release. And so I'm basically, and there's going to be 10,000, illustrations that are going to be released. But so I'm going through my entire catalog, basically, and like redrawing every graphic I've ever done. I'm drawing pills riding bombs. I'm drawing pills. What are other things that I've done? Oh, with the knapsack, runaways, all this stuff. But the one thing that I haven't been doing is the suicide stuff. I haven't been doing nooses. I haven't been doing straight razors. And I just don't feel comfortable with it anymore. And, my whole artistic career, in my whole sort of like messaging profile has been to be kind of like provocative, right?
Absolutely.
And I
Destroy all
I'm not
girls.
above targeting all the low-lying fruit. I do, I'll target or attack religion.
Yeah.
Not attack. I would
attack personally. It's
but because I don't want to say I'm attacking suicide, right? Because that's not what I'm doing. What I'm using is I am mining those fields for creative inspiration. So
Absolutely.
right. So religion, suicide, drugs, all the things that I think people traditionally find objectionable have always been most interesting to me. Because really what I like to try and do is I'm trying to blur the lines between things that I'm trying to blur the line between things that people historically and traditionally find objectionable. I'm trying to blur the lines between morality, something like that.
That's kind of my type of brand, man. I like that. And honestly, the way that I deal, because I've had mental health issues and all of that, and the way that I deal with like my brother, when to memorialize my brother, he had his favorite show is It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
So I don't know how familiar you are with Sunny.
A little bit.
Okay, so there is a fake soda company that Danny DeVito puts out, where he tries to pitch it everywhere.
Yeah,
becomes the official soda of like Al Qaeda or something like that, and then he ends up pitching the soda at a baby's funeral.
Oh God!
And so he closes the pitch with Wolf Cola, the right cola for closure.
Oh my God!
So I have a Wolf Cola bottle or can with the right cola for closure as the memorialization. So wow. I can appreciate the art that makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that. Final question, because I am a fanboy. Are you allowed to bring back Senate? Can you do something with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mark Heineken was one of our partners at Senate.
Yeah.
Brooke and I founded the company, and the first person we brought in was Mark. He was running a distribution company, an inline distribution company in Holland at the time. But anyway, so long after all of us left Senate, went on to do other things, Mark stayed at the company all the way till the end.
Wow.
And when he finally left, which by then, Senate was owned by a much bigger corporation. So when he left the corporation, he had the opportunity to buy Senate and take it with him when he left.
Nice.
And which he might have done. I'm not sure how that played out, but he called me when that happened. And he said, listen, I'm leaving and I want to buy Senate and I want to do something with it. I think that we should bring it back. And so we kicked that around, but ultimately, I made the evaluation. I'm not interested in that. I mentioned drug receipts. We talked a little bit about ghosts. It's like I like creating projects. I like pushing my own limits. I like challenging myself as much as I like challenging other people. And I'm not that attracted to the idea of looking backward. Maybe there'd be a challenge in like reimagining Senate or doing a refresh, but
sure.
To me, it sounds regressive. It sounds like going back.
I get that.
Oh, but look, but I did redo this graphic for drug receipts. You see the old Senate graphic?
Yes. Oh, dude, yes, I love that. Can I buy that? Can I buy that in at the store?
Yeah. So it's a collaboration with Vibrolux, which is a skate clothing brand. But so you can go to their website, Vibrolux skategoods.co. They've got their merch for sale there. Yeah, it's really cool stuff.
That's awesome, man. Well, listen, thank you for taking the time to hang out with me, man. I'd love to have you back on and chat some more, especially if you're doing any sort of project. This is an open door for rollerblade culture for sure. So whatever you need, man, and anything you need in Florida, you let me know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we're launching this NFT project like next month. So we're excited, and I'm doing it. It's very rollerblading related because I'm doing it with Brooke Howard Smith. I started Senate with 30 years ago. And we're also doing it with Tyler Shields, who's also a rollerblader, who's like a major like fine art photographer now. So
nice.
I'd love to come back. We can talk about that sometime, maybe after it mints.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And do you have Shane Smith in your radar? The comedian?
The comedian?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little. I mean, yeah, I've watched people that are rollerblading related.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, because I figured he's known in the rollerblading community at this point.
Exactly, yeah.
But I interviewed him a little while back, and I found out that he's an old school hardcore kid. So we kind of like meshed on that, and then he's like a rollerblader. I was like, get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah.
So it's really cool, man. I love the subculture, and I love the fact that it connects people in so many different ways. Thanks so much, man. Thank you for being a part of it, and I'll be in touch, and we'll do it again. Do you want to do it next month to talk about the NFTs?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Get it on the schedule.
I love it. I will put it on the schedule. I'll have my people call your people, and we'll do it.
Yeah, have your people call my people. Perfect.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks for having me on. Bye.
Yeah, man. My name is DJ Zouain. You can find me anywhere on social media at DJ Zouain. You can find me at theend.fm. The End.fm is where you find all the podcasts, all the mixes, everything The End related or DJ Zouain related is there. I want to thank Arlo for being on the show with me. That was a little hot. That came in a little hot. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Thank you for being a part of the show. Make sure and subscribe and download, and I'll talk to you all next week. Peace.